Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast. We're coming to you live from the Accelerator Building in downtown Wilkes-Barre. I'm Rich Howells. I'm the founder and editor of NEPA Scene. And tonight we're here with Chris Motionless, the vocalist of Scranton metal band Motionless In White. So we're going to be talking about growing up in Northeastern Pennsylvania and his experiences in the local music scene, the band's growth from a local act to a international headliner signed by Roadrunner Records and touring the world, the development of their sound and the area's lasting influence on their music. And of course, plenty about the new album, Scoring the End of the World, which just came out this past week, much more. So please stay tuned. We would love to hear from you guys down in the comments below. We'll feature some of those on the screen throughout the show. So feel free to join in and add any of your own memories, because I'm sure this is going to be a nostalgic one for sure. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff from the past. But we're also going to get into what's going on now as well. Before we dive in, I just want to thank our sponsor, Special Guest, who has given us this wonderful studio to be able to do the stuff that we do. Special Guest app is a talent booking app. They make it easier for talented musicians, rock bands, comedians, drag queens, celebrity impersonators, and more to get discovered and booked. Special Guest was founded in 2017 by actor-comedian Damon Wayans Jr. and alongside local entrepreneur Chris Jones, founder of Pepper Jam, LSEO, and the Accelerator Building, which we're in here now. Check them out at specialguestapp.com or download their app on iTunes or Google Play. And stay tuned for exciting announcements from Special Guest in the coming weeks. We also just recently secured a little partnership with Parlor Root Beer as well. So for those of you who are familiar, Josh Balls is one of the partners in this company, and he was kind enough to drop some of these off for us. I think he said you like the butterscotch is your favorite.
Yeah. I'm like watching your. There I am. I'm watching your screen to see when I'm on, so I can do my Parlor Root Beer. Or I feel like that scene from Wayne's World where they're like, "We will not bow to any corporate sponsors."
Exactly.
But I'm over here just trying to figure out how to. There we go. The butterscotch one tastes like the butter beer from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Yes.
I can say that on here. But, this one is great. So yes, Parlor Root Beer.
You're not going to get a better plug than that. And if you go to the website, drinkparlor.com, and use our promo code NEPA Scene, you get 10% off your purchase. So if you want to try some for yourself and have it shipped to you, you could try all three flavors. There's root beer, birch beer, and the butterscotch. So definitely want to try these. Whether you're local or out of the area, you should definitely be drinking this. And they're like every festival now. It's like crazy. So, all right, let's get into it. The band formed all the way back in 2005 when you guys were in high school. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about those early days now?
You know, maybe we could ask you and chat what they feel about this, because in 2016 we said, you know, this is our 10-year anniversary. This is 10 years since we started touring, but we actually started the band and played okay. I just want an answer to this, because I thought what makes sense is like, when did we start touring and legitimizing ourselves as a band? And I felt like 2006 was that year. However, we formed the band under a different name in the summer of 2004. It then became the name Motionless in White on New Year's Day of 2005. Then we started touring in 2006. So like,
right.
I don't know how long we've been a band. I don't know when you want to say what's what, but either way, I think, to answer your question, it's pretty wild to look back and think how many lifetimes ago that feels like at this point.
Right.
Like it feels like 5 different lives that I've lived, even inside of just doing the same general thing of make a record, play the songs, make a record, play the songs. I don't know. It's been a long 15, 16, 17, 18 years,
Yeah. So, and you guys were from like Pittston area?
I grew up in Pittston with the original members of the band, all from right around that area. Angelo used to live in Pittston, Hughstown. our original bass player, Kyle White, lived in Hughstown. Frank Palumbo, our original guitar player, all Hughstown. So yeah, it's we were pretty tight group of friends that all lived within 5 minutes of each other and hung out every single day. Yeah.
So, what do you think in those early days when you were, trying to, figure out what the band's sound was and stuff like that? What was the thought process at the time? Like, I'm going to take this as a big thing, or is this just going to be a local band and that's it? Or, what was on your mind at the time?
I think we always had the vision of like writing original material and playing it live and just playing. I mean, excuse me. I don't know if there was necessarily like we want to play arenas and that's why we're doing this. It was just like, we're friends. We all play music. We want to play music together. Let's jam and do cover songs and then write originals where and or whenever we could. And I think within that first year, it was like all cover songs. Then 2005, we were just like, let's take more of an effort of doing originals. And then they just came one after another. And yeah, I think it just was a slow idea of it. Like, let's keep doing it. Let's play all these cool shows and see what happens. And that's kind of just the idea behind it. Yeah.
Now, did you guys have a lot of local fans right away, or was that something where you really had to? Because I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the earlier days, I remember reading interviews and stuff that said you guys were kind of bigger, more outside the area, and then kind of, built it that way, as opposed to, a lot of bands you think about, have a small following in the area and then branch out that way. It seems like you guys kind of got bigger elsewhere.
I mean, when I think to the earliest days of like year one, we didn't have a chance to play outside of the area. It was all local shows. And the way that I interpret it is that we were the only band in the area that looked, we were the only band that did the makeup and had like the screamo stuff going on. Every other one of the bigger bands, we all had our own place in the music world at that time. And I just felt like we were sort of like the novelty band that were always put on shows just because we either had that image, so we brought those fans, or I don't know. I never when I look back feel like we were necessarily like respected. It was more just like, let's put them on the show because they do somehow bring people out. And maybe that's just a pessimistic way to look at it, but I don't know. Or maybe it's because I of course 100% believe that we were horrible, really bad. So I can't really expect many people to have loved us, but I think that we really cared about our show. We really cared about getting the crowd into the show. And maybe that's kind of like what, I don't know, the heart of it overpowered the clear lack of quality of it. So yeah, that's what I like to believe.
Well, one of the things that I asked Josh, I was like, remember any things that I should bring up tonight? You think that would be fun to talk about? And he said the first thing he said is the same thing everyone else wanted to bring up: the Dome shows. Everyone wants to talk about the Dome. What was so great about the Dome? Well, maybe explain, I guess, what the Dome is to people who might not know.
For those of you who are unfortunately have never lived the Dome days, those were the glory days of all glory days. That was, I would say, for about a year, if not more, every single weekend, it felt like there was a show. You've seen those big sports domes where like teams practice or whatever. There's one in Jessup, Pennsylvania, which is just past Scranton. And the dude, I want to say his name was Brian, the owner, started letting shows happen there. I think I want to say the first show is where they were approached by a local dude in a band called The Storm. His name was AJ Lesher. I think he approached them about doing a show there, and as soon as the first one happened, it just exploded. Like, there was Dome Fest 1, Dome Fest 2. There was every weekend. And the cool thing was because it wasn't just a show, it was like a huge hangout community center vibe. So you had every kid from around the area that all went there, and you didn't have to watch the band. It wasn't like Metro where you were like in the walls of the show.
Right.
You could go play in the soccer field. You could go hang out in the lobby. There was I don't know, man. It was pure magic, and nothing I've ever felt has been like what the Dome was. It's wild to say that, you know, like here we are this many years past that, and I still live in there. But I don't know. I don't know if it was just time and place or what, but it was magical, and it meant so much to every single music fan in this area.
Yeah, it was such a small period of time too. Like looking back on it, you know, I only saw a couple of shows there, but I remember it not being there for long. But it made it. Everybody talked about it for years afterwards.
It's I think, you know, if you ask anybody from this area that used to go to shows, I feel like Cafe Metropolis and the Dome are the two standouts. And they were like on opposite ends of you know, Scranton. Well, Metro was Wilkes-Barre, for lack of better city monument or touchstone. Dome was Scranton.
Right.
So you had each side of town was a place to go, and they seemed like Metro had a lot of touring acts coming through, but the Dome was all about the local. And then started getting touring acts, and that's just a cool expansion that it experienced, and it was gone too soon.
Well, you guys got to play one of the last Metro shows, didn't you?
We were the last band on the stage at Metro, yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's quite the honor right there.
Not only that, but the last band on stage at the Staircase as well.
Oh, wow.
Very cool. Yeah. It was a huge honor to, you know, close out those venues, because so many huge moments happened for our band at both of those venues. If we get to it later, I actually have a really cool story about the Staircase later we can touch on.
Hey, let's talk about it. I'm interested.
So yeah, the Staircase was another venue that was more so centered around the touring bands. Like you know, I've seen so many shows there. I've seen Breaking Benjamin there probably 90 times. You know?
A lot.
Yeah, that was like their home base a while back. But
I remember seeing Seven Dust there.
Yeah, so that was where all like the touring shows went.
Right.
I have so many life stories there, whether it was my 18th birthday, going to get an industrial piercing and getting it punched out of my ear at a show that night, or being the last band on that stage. The festivals, not festivals, but like fests, for lack of better words, that we hosted and partnered with the Staircase to do were always so rad. But the coolest story to me is that in 2005, we saw that Census Fail, Emmanuel, and the Receiving End of Sirens were coming through. And it didn't seem like there was a fourth band on the show. So I found out who the promoter was, and I called the dude every single day for a month straight. His name is Stan Levinstone, and you guys know him? Yeah, you guys know Stan?
Yep.
So his name was Stan, and I don't even remember how I found his number, but I found it, and I called him, and I annoyed the shit out of him for a month straight. And this was while we were waiting for our 3-song demo to be mixed. And I didn't have music to show him. I didn't have anything. I was just like, hi, we're a band from the area. We sound like Census Fail. Can we please play the show? Like, we'll sell tickets, whatever. And he just was like, I don't know. Do you have music? We're like, no. And I think I just annoyed the hell out of him so much that he finally was just like, what's your address? I'm going to send you 200 tickets. So we sold all 200 tickets, played the show. It was like our, not our big break, but like I felt like a huge break for the band. Like we were doing a legitimate show that wasn't, you know, the typical venues that we were playing.
Yeah.
And the extra cool part about the story to cap it off is that we just did our release party at the Kirby Center. Mm-hmm. Stan was the promoter for that release party and was there. And a kid at the sign, or when we did our meet and greet photo line, there was a dude that came up with a signed ticket from that show that I signed.
No shit.
So like I'm standing there and I see Stan literally watching us meet these these fans, and the kid comes up with a fucking signed Census Fail ticket from me. It was like the coolest, just wow. Like I didn't even know what to say. It was just like a really, really awesome moment of just like, I can't believe I'm standing here right now doing what we're doing when that's where our roots are grounded in. It's just
Right.
It was a really, really special moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the other places that was brought up was the Italian Citizens Club.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. Where do I begin? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, Josh had mentioned that he said you guys put on shows there and then would save the funds and then use those to like tour with, essentially, like basically like creating your own tours, like very DIY.
Yeah, I don't remember when the first show was, but I'm pretty sure, I want to say we were the band that went in there and approached and asked to do shows, but maybe there was one or two before that we didn't. So I don't want to take the credit, but I know that we were the band that hosted the most shows there over time. And excuse me, the soda is.
I know, right? It's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
To me. It's so good though.
It's so good. It'll make you burp 1,000 times. So we didn't have a van. We needed a van. We had to tour. So we would do whatever shows we could. And we didn't have like merch at the time. So the only way to make any money was to host your own shows. If you played a show for somebody else, you weren't getting paid. You were getting paid gas money for just that day.
Right.
Like Metro would throw us a couple bucks and backstage and whatnot, but the Dome, no. And the only way to really actually make any money to save for your band, to buy a van or gear or whatever, was to host your own shows. So that's kind of the main reason that we started approaching doing that. And the Italian Club ended up being kind of what I feel is like second to the Dome. It was in between Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. It was definitely a lot smaller and a lot tighter, but really magical shows there too. And we always ended up using the PA system that I had that was terrible, and I ended up doing sound for everybody, and it was horrible. I don't know if I even have any videos of or like tapes of us performing there, but I got to dig that out if I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like everything is so well documented now. You can always guarantee that there's somebody at a show that's taping the whole thing, whether it's on their phone or whatever. So like those days, it's like, man, I wish I had more pictures from that time.
So as soon as the pandemic struck, I don't know why I was so inspired to like dig for old stuff. I really don't know why. That was like one of the first things that I was just like, wow, like I have all this time. I want to go through old tapes, old photos. And I ordered a VHS camera so I could go through all the tapes. And that was the final thing that I didn't do. I went through all these boxes of like Motionless memorabilia or mementos. Found some pretty crazy stuff, like local weekender newspapers that were on the cover of, or like so many cool local things that were like, oh, wow, I remember this, or I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But the only thing I didn't go through was the tapes. So I know that I have some stuff. I just don't know what yet. And I guess we'll wait for the next pandemic for me to get to those.
The way things are going these days, it's coming. So, what was your, high school experience like in general? Were you like the band kid, or were you like, I was like the nerdy theater guy?
I was definitely the punk kid.
Okay.
I looked, very much like either in a band, or I started getting tattoos while still in high school. Piercings as well. I had like, I think I had my hair cut like Billy Martin from Good Charlotte at one point. I was definitely just like the alt punk kid that got super bullied by football players and shit. But what's weird is it was only the football players that I didn't go through all the other grades of school with. All the ones that I went through like 6th through 8th grade with didn't fuck with me because we were friends during those years of school. It was all like new faces that didn't really know me. And yeah, there were years and years of expected comments, all the typical ones.
Yeah.
I never got like beat up or like, the typical getting shoved in your locker shit. That was not a reality. So I guess I got off, considerably lucky compared to what many kids have to go through when they look like I did. So yeah, I think I feel lucky in that sense.
And has that played into your music, do you think, over the years at all? Because I feel like that stuff, even though you look back on it, it was just that time, like it still kind of affects you in some way,
I think that there's still a lot of like the rebellious fuck you to many things that are music. It's not particularly like I'm still writing songs about bullying in high school,
right?
It's you get out of school and then you see the rest of the world is just a bigger version of that.
Yeah.
More specifically, as each year goes on, it becomes that because of social media and the way that things work in the world right now. So I think I'm glad that I went through it because it prepared you like it does for the mean world out there, the mad, sick world that we can often live in. So I don't know. I think I take the hateful, aggressive part of me that was birthed in those years and use that to kind of propel things going forward. I don't know. Yeah. It certainly at that time was a big like motivator to just come home. I could give a fuck less about school. I didn't care at all. I just went home. I played drums. I played guitar. I tried to meet friends that played music and just use all of it as the fuel to play music.
Well, one of the impressions I got from you guys is that you weren't really the big partier type. Like you guys were more like, it just seemed like you guys were always motivated to do the band thing and succeed, like, and just kept pushing that. And, do you think that maybe that's part of why you guys became successful?
I mean, I don't know if not partying was a factor. I think maybe it was not particularly not partying, but definitely keeping like focused. None of us, I think most of us in the band early on were straight edge. I think Josh and I and Angelo are still straight edge. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, it just wasn't a part of our lives already. And then when entering into the band lifestyle, it was like we would hang out with anybody at any time. Like we'd go to parties or even host parties. Angelo had parties all the time at his house and we'd be there till 3 in the goddamn morning in the yard, just playing kickball, and lots of people were drunk and hanging out. Other people weren't. And it was a great moment to just, I don't know, spend a summer. I think he had a party every single day for 5 days straight, to the point where people were just staying there and we wake up and just get it rolling again. And I don't know, I loved it. I loved being around friends and sharing like a love of just hanging out, spending a summer together, listening to music, playing music. And that was definitely some highlight moments. But yeah, I think we always were focused on music and where we wanted to go next. And we rehearsed every single day for years. So yeah, different lifestyle than the party one.
Well, what were some of the bands that you played with that you enjoyed, or maybe some bands you think maybe should have made it or gone farther? There's a lot of good local ones from that time, I think.
I believe I have most of them. I still have like all the MP3s that I have like a hard drive on my computer, and I'll occasionally listen. I mean, there was like I think the big four, I always refer to as the big four, was us, Goodbye Soundscape, To Outlive the Beginning, and The Storm. And those were like, we were on like every show together always. So those are of course fond memories to have spent so much time with them. But then there were so many other bands. We talked before this about Honored Insignia. They were definitely a big favorite. I can't even at this now. Of course, I'm blanking out because I have to think about it. But those 4 bands I think were like my favorites in the area, and I still will occasionally put them on and listen. Yeah.
So it seems like you guys too, as you've grown and stuff. You put out a song like 570, paying kind of tribute to the area and stuff. Does it when you look back on all of it now, does it seem like you're proud to come from this area? You feel good about representing Scranton and stuff like that?
Yeah, I can't say that the people from here that are the old from those days would agree. I actually saw something the other day about I can't remember his name, but he had posted. He's like, "Yeah, it seems like nobody that used to play shows in 2006 is stoked on Motionless success right now." And I saw that, and I was like, "Well, there's nothing new." I think we were always, as I said earlier, right from the get-go, very disrespected and not looked at as like a legitimate band. Mm-hmm. And for many reasons, as I've described, I understand that. But as the years went on, I think I love that nobody will ever be able to take away the true, legitimate, hard ass busting work that we did. I mean, we did so many fucking tours in a van that broke down every single show. Like, we did not have it easy and didn't just blow up on the internet and get on a tour bus. That's not how it was for us.
Right.
We fucking grinded for years. And that is where 570, the song, is exactly coming from. It's about thinking back to those years of all that hard work, 6 friends getting in a van, us against the world, let's fucking do this, and doing it.
Right.
That's really cool to see that when you put that much of your energy and that much of your soul into something, it can result in what it ended up doing for the band.
Well, you can just look at this past weekend. I mean, you had this sold out event at the Kirby Center where people are lining up for hours just to meet you guys. And then at the Gallery of Sound 2 days later, that line went on for like 6 hours. I was at both events, taking some pictures and stuff like that. And it seemed like you guys really took your time with each person too. Like each person kind of got a, personal greeting, and you talked to them and stuff, and people were just giving you things like, fan art and stuff, like really, really cool. And I'm sure a lot of those are from out of the area, but I think a lot of them were from here too. And I feel like maybe that attitude has finally changed.
Yeah, I think there was I would say I asked probably 50% of them where they were from. Most, if not all, were within like an hour. Some of them were from Virginia or like the surrounding states, New York, etc., New Jersey. There was some people from Mexico, Italy that came in to like see us in the hometown. So that was really cool to have like a worldwide presence.
Yeah.
Most, I would say 99.9% of everyone were all like fans that have been around since maybe like 2010-ish. There was only a few that were earlier than that, which is the dude I talked about earlier with the Census Fail ticket.
Yeah.
But yeah, not many people from that era, and certainly not many people that I remember as familiar faces from like the earlier shows. Probably, I'm sure nobody even lives here anymore.
That's true.
So that nor if they did, why would they stand in line to meet us at Gallery of Sound when they spent years playing shows with us? So yeah, it's cool to see the new faces of the area come out, or people travel from close by that have stories of like, oh, I saw you in 2010 when you released Creatures, or I saw I used to see you at the Staircase or something like that. So those stories were cool to hear.
My story was I interviewed you over the phone for a little Scranton paper back when you guys were doing a release party at Eleanor Rigby's. And I remember at the time I was like, I really want to talk to these guys because I feel like, like they're doing something different. I was always kind of looking for like who's not doing the same old thing over and over, especially like local media. I felt like at the time was doing a lot of like, how many times can you feature the same 10 people over and over and over again? And so it was nice to, talk about something different. I remember we left I had the recording and I listened to it today, and I left. I was like, good luck. I think you guys are really going to go somewhere. And he's like, oh yeah, thank you so much for that. But I feel like your humbleness hasn't really changed at all, and your attitude really hasn't changed at all. You continue to have that drive, and I think that inspires a lot of the people that I talk to in the local music scene anyway. If it's any comfort to what we've been talking about earlier, a lot of them look up to you guys, and a lot of them are inspired by what you're doing. So I think that there's always going to be those trolls that are going to say stupid shit and whatever, especially based on how you look or whatever. But I mean, you guys are killing it.
That is truly an honor to be like from the area and have any bit of inspiration to any newer artists in the area, or just people from the area in general in any way. I don't know. I think everyone in the world knows how much of a huge Breaking Benjamin fan I am, and they were ahead of us. So like going to see their shows all the time, being such a super fan, and going and watching them. I used to see them long before they were signed to Hollywood Records, and they were huge inspiration to me and all of us in the band. Mm-hmm. So to like, be the next in line after them from the area, and then be able to do that for, people that are coming up now, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it's great because it's not just the band in general. You have dudes like Josh Balls, who does his stuff in the area and, contributes really cool things to Northeast PA. Mm-hmm. You have Angelo, who tattoos at Black Casket, who's like, having fans from around the world come and see him because it's him, and he's tattooing in Scranton or Dixon City. Like it's so cool to see what we've all built together, and how, even though we're not all a band anymore, we still have our presence in this area. And I think things like that are something that like you can't overlook. It's really awesome. And we're happy to be here to provide anything to anyone in the area that I think we all would agree is such a cool, unexpected thing from us doing what we did.
For sure. Well, so many of the bands that I would feel like are a success around here, Menzingers, Title Fight, Tiger's Jaw, so many of them all kind of came up around the same time and stuff, but I feel like they had to, like the Menzingers, for example, move to Philadelphia, and that helped them really blow up and stuff too. You can only build so much of a local fan base before you need to like spread your wings and hit those major cities and stuff to get to a point where you need to. But it's so interesting to see nowadays how many of these bands have become, national acts and, can tour the world and stuff like that. Like that's just that always amazes me that people from here can do that. I think that's so inspiring.
Very cool to look at what our music scene years ago provided for so many bands. Like this area at one point in time had 10 venues that you can go to an amazing show at.
Right.
And now there's none. It doesn't exist, at least that I know of. That was such a special time in music, and it's no wonder that bands like who you mentioned and ourselves were able to do what we did from coming from this area.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about touring. You guys were recently on the Trinity of Terror tour with Ice Nine Kills and Black Veil Brides. Do you have any fun stories from those shows?
That tour was funny in the sense that it was like a nightmare for all three of the bands at one point in time of the tour. Black Veil a couple of the guys got COVID, so they had to miss 5 shows, which was horrible.
Yeah.
Of course, that sent the rest of the tour into like a frenzy of like, fuck, no, we got like it was full blown panic. Like, do we have COVID? So that sucked. Ice Nine had a bunch of bus issues. I got crazy sick, and it took 4 fucking ever to get past it. We had to cancel a show because it was like the first time I can remember in our career having to cancel a show from me being sick. And I think I've been sicker than that on shows in the past, but like didn't necessarily have the luxury of saying like I can't play because we were hustling. You know, if you missed a show, it meant a lot. Now where we're at now has fortunately offered us a little bit more of a comfortable place to be like, I'm going to go ahead and take this show off, because if I don't, I'm going to be in a really, really, really bad place. So it just was a struggle for every band at one point in time of the tour. And I think that was just funny that it happened to every one of us. But yeah, it was at the tour is insane. The shows were like the biggest shows that the three of our bands have ever played in a headlining proportion. So very cool. Hoping to do it again. Yeah.
Hopefully without as many issues this time.
Well, this time I think I'm gonna just like overload my body with vitamin C and other supplements long ahead of time, so I go in bulletproof.
These are the touring secrets.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice to those bands that want to get out there and do what you guys are doing?
Any question that we ever get asked like close to this or related to this is so tough, because my advice is reflective of a time period
of your era, right?
Of my era, and that's so insane to say. I'm an old guy now, you know, like what we did won't necessarily work for bands right now.
Sure.
Of course, the hustle, grinded out nature can be helpful in any scenario, but like we had MySpace. We had yes. We had MySpace. Now there's 15 different social media. There's streaming, there's everything.
Yeah.
So I of course love to lean on the idea that if you are willing to put your heart and soul into it, then you're gonna stand a much greater chance than if you do it as just some sort of passive like thing, or like, I now see that some bands can get noticed or become popular just by doing YouTube covers of songs, and then they'll get noticed and they'll get signed and do an album, and that's something that would be like unheard of in our era.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of bands are trying to do things like that on TikTok and YouTube, and whatever works. Good for you, but nothing will ever, be a better mentality than I could think of than be prepared to go into it and lose everything and grind it out, and then rebuild from nothing to become what it is that you want. And I don't know, I think that sounds like something that my dad would say or some shit, like I can't believe how old I am now, and that's my lesson to the youngsters.
Are your folks proud of where you gone with this? Because I'd imagine they were probably maybe a little skeptical at first. Like, are you really, you want to go, do you want to do what you do? Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know if want you touring around and stuff like that.
I think they were really supportive. My dad was always like helping us fix our van, or like very early on when I did not have the money to buy gear, like I was working at Walmart or Mark's Tattooing, working the desk, or working up at the Wyoming Valley Mall at PacSun. Like, I was not making gear money and buy a van money. I was making barely gas and food money.
Yeah.
So my dad was supportive. He ended up buying me an amp, and like I very fortunately inherited a really rad guitar from my grandfather. So like I got lucky in that sense, and it was cool to have that support and someone kind of willing to help us on that level. Angelo's dad, same thing, was always letting us borrow his Parenti's bread van to drive to shows to put our gear in. So like those two guys really stood up and helped us out a lot. We ended up practicing at Josh's dad's spot at one of the VFW halls in Plains. So like everybody chipped in one way or another, but my parents were really supportive and didn't really initially know, but after they saw that like, okay, there's no way we're flipping this, like this is just what he's gonna do, and
right.
then it all turned.
Support your kids, damn it. That's what I say. So the new album is Scoring the End of the World, which is an interesting choice of words. I think when you think scoring, you think orchestras and big movies and stuff. So when you were writing these songs, were you kind of writing a movie in your head?
This is weird. It is the first time I've in the record release week that I don't want to talk about the new album because I'm having so much fun talking about the past.
Oh, well, I mean, we can always go back.
Fuck. Yes, of course. Like we've always tried to include some sort of theatrical or performative aspect of the band beyond just what the band is.
Right.
So yeah, it felt like where we were going. We didn't do anything on this record that I feel like we haven't already touched on. It's that we just did it more and refined it on this record. And that's, I don't know, just something that we felt like was very fitting of what the songs were becoming, whether it was lyrically or musically without all that stuff. So yeah.
So back in our old interview, I asked you what your favorite horror movie was, and I think it was Halloween was your favorite. Does that still hold up?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if I don't necessarily consider The Lost Boys to be like a horror movie the same way I do Halloween is.
Right.
But, those two movies are definitely my favorite. Yeah. With the original Halloween being the top.
Right. So, I mean, you kind of always were thinking, I think, theatrically in a lot of ways, but in, movie wise and stuff. I mean, even just a couple of years ago, you did the motion picture, the two songs off of that, which I thought was cool. So, are you always kind of thinking cinematically in a lot of ways? Like, is that something that runs throughout a lot of your music?
I would say yes, because at the earliest that I could think of having a keyboardist, Josh is not the original keyboard player. We had two people very, very briefly before him, but knowing that we wanted to bring that in and have like the same idea of what my favorite band Bleeding Through was doing, they had a something about the nature to the band that had like all this heavy, super heavy, fast metal stuff, but then had the amazing keyboards and the strings and stuff over it, did something for me that, very much hit me and wanted me to approach having a keyboardist. So I think from that moment, it was always like, how do we bring these songs and make them bigger by the addition of these components and elements, musical components and elements. And it just grew and grew and grew. And what became what is now is just a refining and experience and learning. And, at this point, 12 years of doing it, or 12 years since our first record that we put out of doing it like this. So, yeah.
Yeah. So with that, in mind, you guys have kind of a different visual aesthetic with each, kind of record cycle and stuff too, which greatly helps as a writer or researcher in any way, because I could specifically say, oh yeah, this is from this time and this is from this time and so on and so forth.
Point is whoever's in the band, because it seems like every record or so we have different band members.
Yeah. Well, is that something that that you've just kind of adapted to over time, that you have different band members to work with each time? Is that something that you like, or would you rather just have a permanent setup all the time?
The band members thing is not intentional. No, that just is based on so many factors that either the person leaves the band organically or we move on from them. So like in that history of the band, no. I mean, of course I would love to just have a band. I loved when bands still have the original lineup, and like I actually saw a band one time at a festival that was only the singer from the original lineup.
Right.
And it like I didn't want to watch. I don't know why. He just did something weird. But it for us, that's never been a focus, is to shift members. It's just what happened.
Sure.
As far as like the photos and the overall aesthetic, I feel like it just maybe wasn't particularly like sought out like it is now. It's just kind of happened where we just kept learning how to, or trying different makeup, or sought out, like a specific type of look in one way or another. I don't know. I can't say that we've sat down and had many discussions about like, should we do this, should we do that, until actually this record. And in fact, my band will probably hate me for saying this, but I wish so much that in many of our photos recently that we had more of an organized look. And that's kind of what made me feel comfortable to look at this record and be like, okay, this whole thing is shaping up to be a very thematic concept experience.
Right.
I don't want to have the same idea of like, you know, Ryan's wearing a suit, I'm wearing a fucking tech vest or whatever. Like, yeah. I think I love that everybody has their own thing, and that worked for us for a long time. But this record in particular demanded that we all have this one thing that we do together. And I was really grateful to the band that when we had that discussion, they were just like, yeah, sure. And I'm like thinking like, that's all it took. You know, like for years I've been so afraid to be like, let's all do the same thing and, you know, put down your own thing. You know, I don't want to be that person. I have at points in time, but I am happy I approached it and that everyone was so supportive, because it felt like it made this record have another layer to everything that it is thematically, and I'm very happy with it.
Well, you know, I like the whole some of the photos you guys did in like the shipping container. It was like a kind of a cyberpunk or almost a Tron sort of feel to it, which I really dug.
Yeah, anything in like the cyberpunk world is something that we're all fans of. I think this record having a pretty heavy like video game soundtrack vibe and feel to it is another thing that pushed it in that direction. Wanted it to feel like we were like a unit of or a group that belonged to some sort of particular aesthetic as like a uniform, not so much like a choice. It was like a uniform or a battle gear or something like that, and that was cool too.
Do you guys play a lot of games?
Yeah, I think the pandemic certainly got all of us into gaming more.
Right.
A couple of our guys have always been gamers. I've had select few games that I played over time, but then over the pandemic, trying a bunch of new ones really like felt like a cool thing to do with time. That just felt like you're okay. Well, I have this time. I guess I'll try some new stuff. Yeah, same thing for the other guys too.
So one of the big, obviously, themes of the whole thing is, you know, the end of the world, clearly. You know, there's so many different kinds of apocalypses that we could possibly, you know, endure. A meteor, nuclear bomb, zombies. Is there anything specific that you were thinking about, like that you were picturing these songs to fit into a particular scenario, or, you know, imagery that you were thinking about?
Very much a self-inflicted apocalypse. Not so much some sort of other world thing, or, you know, like
not like aliens showing up or something like that.
No extraterrestrial type stuff. I feel like you know, there's been a lot going on the last bunch of years where the destruction done here by humans is far greater of a far more immediate of a threat than the idea of a meteor hitting the earth.
Right.
And it just, you know, felt like things that I wanted to create a world that looked like the sci-fi apocalyptic world, but the lyrics were all centered around what we're doing to ourselves. And I really liked that it wasn't like, you know, the end of the world's coming because giant earthquakes and you know, I liked that a lot.
Well, I mean, if you could have a preferred apocalypse, you know, I think I would go with zombies. Well, how about you?
We'll probably also go with zombies, just because I would enjoy the fight. Like, it feels like you have a chance, or like a fight in it,
right?
You know, some sort of
like you could win this. It's very, very small that it's going to happen, but you could get out of it.
Yeah. I made a joke years and years and years ago in an interview that Walmart would be my post-up like apocalypse shelter, but yeah, I think zombies would be fun, just because if we're gonna die anyway, then at least let's have a cool fight to the death and not just, be taken out by an asteroid.
So let's see what else we got. So after all these years of doing this, what keeps you passionate about making music? It seems like you're just as just watching a few of your interviews before doing this one, it seems like you're just as enthused and passionate about it now as you were when I talked to you like 12 years ago.
I don't know the answer to that question. Something about music, when I was reintroduced to it in my life, in high school, or actually in middle school, I think I want to say 7th grade was when it was reintroduced into my life. From that very moment that the guitar was put in my lap, dude, till today, the burn and the drive within me has never, ever faltered or gone away. I don't know what it is. I could give a fuck less about money, fame. I don't care. Obviously, I recognize that those things are taking place, so you have to cater to it to some degree. And of course, it being my livelihood and my career, you have to consider that those things are very real and operated as a business. Right. But that's so secondary to me that you can take it away and I'm completely fine, and I'll still do music at the same level that I'm doing it now, because, well, I suppose whenever I'm not then having to do whatever else I'm doing to put food on the table, you can find me working on music. And I've never been able to really captivate what that is in words, but it really, really just burns so hot within. And it's all I could think about every day. It's all I want to do. And I'm very grateful for that passion. And I don't know. I'm still trying to search for what I would call it.
Well, I feel like you, it takes so many other factors to make a living off of this. I think people just think like, oh, you just put out a record and people listen to it and then people just book you on a tour or whatever. There's so many other parts of the whole process that I think can discourage people, that can just make people be like, you know what, I can't do this. I give up, What have been some of those challenges for you guys over the years? Like what do you think were some of maybe the biggest hurdles that you guys had to overcome?
Of course, the earlier days of just being able to actually do it and be on tour and then have enough money to eat. I mean, you can ask Josh, we stole most of our food. We would go in Walmart and we would steal cans of food or food right off the shelves for most of our meals that week.
Walmart could afford it.
Yeah. Walmart. So like we were doing that, or like living off of, dollar menu McDonald's. And I think at some point we may have hit a wall where it was just like, I don't think we can keep doing this. Like, how long can we be forced to just, be robbing food from Walmart or grocery stores or eating McDonald's and feeling like shit all the time?
Right.
But it wasn't like we have to quit. It was more like we kind of have to pull back on the amount in which we're doing this and try to save from our normal jobs for a lot longer before we continue to try to tour all the time. Like I think once we started trying to do the tour thing, we didn't just think of it as a one-time deal. We'll go out next year. It was, how do we tour as much as possible, and tried to make that happen. And weren't necessarily thinking about the saving in between to get us out there.
Right.
And those were the moments I think were the hardest, to just like have to, just scrounge and scavenge to be able to do what we wanted to do. But fortunately we made it work, and here we are somehow, some way. Yeah.
How did you find your what your musical taste was? Because you guys were doing something very different for the area, so it's not like there was a lot you could look for maybe around, although obviously you said like Breaking Benjamin was a bit, of an influence and stuff too, but my discovery of the metal and punk and stuff like that was like through like my cousin, like just being like, here's a blank CD, and it had like Slipknot's first album on it and stuff like that, the original one, before they edited the one part and changed the songs around and stuff like that, like those types of things, like just those and he introduced me to Tool too, and that changed my perspective on music and stuff. What were some of those early bands for you, and like how did you find them? Did somebody give you them, or did you just find them on the internet? Or
I suppose at the risk of not repeating myself as I do many times when asked this question, for those of you that are watching that have heard me say this a million times, Metallica is the band that really just hit me over the head with a hammer. As soon as I heard and tried to learn a Metallica riff on guitar, that was the band that became like all I wanted to learn. And then by association came Megadeth, Iron Maiden, Pantera. So those are the earliest bands that I started learning on guitar. And then at the very, very, very much almost at the same time was Korn, Limp Bizkit, all that era of bands.
Yeah, that new metal thing.
Yes.
Like that's what got me. That was kind of my gateway into heavy music in general.
I think I mentioned earlier, 7th grade is when I think is the grade that was. And then you had another side of it, which was Blink-182, New Found Glory. I was such a fan of everything going on musically, and all three of those worlds were kind of all at once. I was such a mega fan of all of it. I would remember friends from school, like I would go in one day to school with the Dickies and the high socks looking like Tom DeLonge, and then go to school the next day with fishnets and baggy Jinko pants and looking like I was a new metal kid. It's so obvious why our music is so diverse now. I could just never pick one because I was such a fan of it all.
Right.
I just wanted to consume it all, to just live it all, and eventually create it all. Not to say we have any songs that sound like Blink-182, but all those early influences and bands like that still live within what I do today. And yeah, I think it all started, of course, with Metallica.
That's I think that has also helped you guys endure all these years, is that you're willing to change. You're not trying to put out the same album or the same group of songs over and over again. You guys are always kind of evolving and changing. And then that's a precarious balance, because then you have, it seems like you really care about what the fans think, and you really want to hear the feedback from them and stuff too. So you have that balance of those people who are willing to go on that ride with you, and then other people who are like, well, I don't know, I think this album is way better, and I don't, that sort of thing. Like that would, bug the hell out of me. But it seems like you guys kind of creatively still move forward anyway, and do what you want to do.
That has come in phases. We probably started caring about what fans thought more earlier on, and then after our record Creatures came out, we decided like we're not really feeling like we're doing what the max potential of what we see the band could be doing. I look back on that record and I love the record more and more as each year goes on. I look back on that record and I'm like, fuck, that record slaps.
As those kids say,
it slaps. But at the time it didn't feel like everything I wanted to fully be trying to do. We were so afraid that our label would, just not release the album if it wasn't exactly what they wanted. And we tried to fit ourselves into a box a little bit more than I wanted to. And then after that record came out, I remember very vividly us having a discussion in a hotel room on tour on an off day, and saying like, we have to start working on the next record. I would like to do this, this, and this, and this, and try expanding and doing this. And it felt like everybody was on board. So I called the label and I was like, hey, we want to do this. We want to try these things. And they're like, yeah, go ahead, try it. I think they didn't think that we were going to really come forward with the type of stuff that we did. And I think there was such a hatred for that album from fans that it created this like resistance of, well, fuck you, we're gonna do what we want anyway. Like we're gonna do what makes us happy. We're gonna do, and it became like kind of like tough shit, deal with it. And then as the years went on, we started to realize, like, starting to see like people are seeing more eye to eye. We're a little bit more open to letting fans in, or at least their opinions, I should say, because we've always been close with fans. But I think after that time period passed, we started to pay attention a lot more, to the point where on the last two albums, it's so much of a discussion with fans. And the cool part about it is that it doesn't feel like there's a lot of like push and pull. It feels like everybody's all on the same table, agreeing on the same things. And that's awesome, because what better place could you be in your career than where you're delivering what you want exactly, and what the fans want exactly. It's like we just got very lucky, but at the same time, it's been a 12-year journey to get here, of the, in particular, to what we're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you mentioned some of those bands that you were into, and then you've gotten to collaborate with some of them, tour with some of them. Like, I can't even imagine, like, how does it, when you get asked to do something like that, like, how do you even prepare? Because I feel like if it's somebody who influenced you, or somebody that means something to you, do you feel like you have to, oh God, I really got to step it up and do something, special, or do something, great on this tour to like impress these guys? Or, like, I can't even imagine what that would feel like. I get weirded just talking to them, like doing interviews and stuff.
I think it's more just like a overall anxiety of like, are they gonna like hate us, or like, I mean, I think we've always been really cool and nice to all the bands that we play with. Like, we're very introverted and very quiet, so sometimes that gives people the vibe that we're dicks and just don't socialize, but we're really just socially awkward and introverted.
Yeah.
That's the one area that of Josh Balls' personality that I wish I could have been more of myself. Like, that dude is a social butterfly.
Yeah.
Me and Angelo, so quiet, so like reserved. And then all the guys in the band after, very much like that. We keep to ourselves. Balls was the dude that was always out networking with the other bands we were playing with. And yeah, I think, I don't know, we always go into a tour with these bands and just say, like, let's be ourselves. Let's not placate to the like, we're big fans. Like, we're going to go and kiss your ass. It's just, like, if you meet them, you say like, hey man, thanks so much for having us. We're huge fans. I've been a fan for a really long time, and this is huge for us, and try to keep it at that.
Right. Stay humble. Well, do you have any so I mean, you obviously have been able to express so much through these albums. Do you have like an itch to do anything outside of that? Any other projects, a solo album, something like that?
I would love to do music. I've talked about it for years, where I have songs written that are different, that I've tried to do, but 100% of my daily effort goes into this band as it is, and I would feel really guilty if I tried to take away from that. Like, I'm so heavily involved with every aspect of what the band does and is on a very daily basis that I don't know, I just feel guilty if I went elsewhere. But I have, and it's funny because the songs I mentioned that are in the bank are songs that were created out of writing sessions for Motionless, and it just didn't go the way that I would think it would be a Motionless song. And then I'm like, oh, I'll save that, and I like this for something else. But that something else just hasn't found its time, and I just don't want to compromise any effort that could go to this band.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. That makes sense. With the group that you have now, it seems like you guys are really close, and you guys are just a great group of friends. And how has that played into creating the album that you guys have now?
This one was really awesome because I feel like that's present more on this record than it has been on many of the others. I think Creatures, there was a lot of like really cool friends coming together and doing it like as a group effort. And then it felt departed from that on other records. On this one, yes, we are really close. Everybody contributed something somewhere that felt really great to the record, and it's not always been that way. And I guess I do credit that with just the fact that like we have a relationship now where everyone is so well aware of how it works and is happy to just be present and contribute wherever we can. And yeah, not much more to say about that than I could think.
You mentioned the first album. Was that at JL Studios? Was that Joe Loftus? Or was that the EPs?
I don't think that we've ever actually done a official release with Joe Loftus.
Okay.
There was always the song. Joe was always tasked with shout out to Joe Loftus because that dude put in some fucking hours with our band. That we kept that dude at the studio for hours and hours and hours beyond what you should ever expect anyone to do. And he was so cool because he never was never mean about it or anything. And I wish he at times was just like, yo, I need to go to fucking sleep. But no, Joe is so responsible for some of our earliest like singles that we ever put out.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have them all, but all of the releases all the way from our 3-song demo, our 2 EPs / full length, they were all done elsewhere.
Yeah.
Mostly with another really important dude to our history, Zach Neal from another band that played the area called Split 50. Zach started managing us and got really everything rolling early on and hooked us up with a studio up in Marshall's Creek. And we recorded the demo, the 2 EPs there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and it's funny, Joe is still around today, like producing every other album in the area. Everybody that I interview, it's like, yeah, we recorded there, and or they did at least once or twice at one point. Everybody just loves working with that guy.
I'm so happy we're talking about him because I haven't seen him in so long, and just whether or not you're trying to end our discussion or not, it's cool to end up back more in the past.
Yes.
Joe really did help our band record some stuff and just put ourselves out there and gave us a chance. And I don't think he charged us much money, if any money at all. He was very much a key player and behind the scenes for so many bands in our area. And I know at the time he certainly got the recognition because everyone was always like, you got to go to Loftus.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just, mega shout out from everyone in the 570 area to Joe Loftus for helping so many bands and really showing that his heart was in it as well. So yeah, really cool.
I think the only way you can see him now is if you book time at JL Studios in Oliphant, Pennsylvania. That is the only time.
Nice to see that things haven't changed. He still works his ass off. Take a break, Joe.
Absolutely. So we're gonna we'll let. I know you have a tour coming up in Australia. Is that your next big tour after this?
Yes, we go to Australia this Friday. Wow. We leave Friday. We arrive on like Saturday or Sunday or something, and 2-week tour there, and then back home for a little bit of time off in the summer, and then we start preparing for our fall, which isn't announced yet, but I think fans are going to be pretty pumped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those international audiences, I always hear from the heavier bands that's their bread and butter. That's where they do so well, or that's where they have like the most fervent fan bases. Has that been the case for you guys?
US is still the strongest for us. Mm-hmm. We didn't do a lot of international touring until the later part of our career because we either just didn't have the money to get over there or we weren't offered the right tours. So it took a while to really get going. But now, yeah, I mean, there's some key areas like Australia, Germany, the UK, like that really stand out for us internationally, that when we go over there now, we can, I think the last time we played Germany headlining, we sold out like a 1,500 cap venue, which was really cool because it's a venue that has 3 separate rooms. One of them is about 500. The other one's probably like 900. And then the big room is 1,500. And over the course of our career, we played all 3 rooms and then headlined and sold out the big room. So
that's awesome.
Really cool to see that you can go to Germany. You're from Northeast PA and then could go to Germany and sell out a room like that. It's really awesome.
Well, if I recall correctly from the Q&A you guys did on Friday, you still want to play the Pavilion more so than just Warped Tour, because you guys did Warped Tour there a bunch of times.
Yeah, we've played Warped Tour at the Pavilion many times. I've seen countless shows there. I think, I've never actually played on the, whether it was Warped Tour or whatever, we've never played on the main Pavilion stage.
Right.
That's my #1 bucket list venue.
Why has this not happened yet? Montage Mountain. What is wrong with you guys? Why have you not had these guys on the stage yet? Like and there's been a few festivals over the years. Like I remember one year the Menzingers played it because it was like a beer festival. So they got to play that stage and stuff. And it was a big deal for them too. Like so many bands around here. Like that's the big venue, so to speak. I can't imagine why you guys haven't been able to play there yet.
Well, it is, in fact, like 10,000 cap.
It is. Which, but I feel like you guys could do pretty well there, especially with the right lineup.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that's in at this point now very much in like a discussion of like when should we ever try to do? It's either that or Mohegan Sun Arena. Do we try to pull the trigger on do either one of those and see how it goes?
Right.
But it's such a big thing that it just ends up not being what happens. But I don't know. And maybe with the new record, we'll see it finally take place. I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to see that. Yeah. Well, the last time I saw you guys was at I guess it's been 20 different names. Levels, Tinks. Tinks, I think, is probably the one that people actually remember the most because they had such great bands coming through there. But yeah, you guys, played a hell of a show there, and that was that. I'll tell you though, that room was a little scary because it was on the 4th floor, I think it was, and I could feel the floor moving the whole time. And I'm like, oh my god, they definitely oversold this. Holy shit!
I firmly believe that if that place had more shows, like touring shows, or anything of our caliber, we for sure would have seen the floor cave in and a lot of people get fucked up.
Right.
So I'm simultaneously happy to have played a really badass show.
Yes.
And perhaps have been a small part in the prevention of further incidents because I think very shortly after they stopped having shows.
Right.
So yeah, I'm happy. We truly did shut that shit down.
Well, was there any interesting comments or questions that you saw that we should highlight here?
I'm cool to do a few questions and then
all right.
send us on our way.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, if you want to participate, we would love to see anything down here in the comments on any platform that you're watching, except unfortunately Instagram, because Instagram does not cooperate with the software that we use for streaming or any streaming software. So that's just my cell phone in the corner, by the way. So if you're watching on there, hop on, Facebook, YouTube, one of those. Who would you love to collab on tour with in the future? That's from Jenny.
I don't know. I think I probably had some of my biggest ones that we toured with Breaking Benjamin and they had me come up and sing Polyamorous with them on stage.
I saw that video online. I think somebody did capture that.
My friend Andy Peck, shout out Andy Peck from Northeast PA, the Andy Peck.
Right.
He filmed some videos for it of it for me back when it happened, but I never posted them. But perhaps I will after this conversation.
You totally should. Yeah.
I was just looking for any excuse I could to shout out Andy Peck.
That guy documents all the best shows around here.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's one of the best people I've ever met in my whole life.
And he's only gotten bigger. He's got like a team now, and he's got some sponsors and stuff. I'm happy for him. I love that.
Great.
Let's see. He wants to know about your drumming. Morgan said, "Is that how you started out?"
Yeah, I started doing drums and guitar at the exact same time. Well, I suppose maybe drums like a few days later. I want to say it's so fucking funny because some of the earliest songs I remember sitting down to try to learn. Tom Sawyer by Rush.
Oh man.
Got the Life and Freak on a Leash from Korn. Any and every Metallica song. So like pretty weird range of songs I tried to sit down and learn. But I remember playing Tom Sawyer from Rush about 10 billion times in a row. Very fun. I actually haven't sat down and played drums for maybe over 10 years. And during the pandemic, I dug out an old kit and set it up in our rehearsal spot.
Okay.
And played, and I got about half a song in, and I was just like, yeah.
Let's see. What was Victoria? What was the hardest, easiest, and your favorite part about writing the new album? Wow, that's a lot in one question.
Let's see. Hardest part was I was gonna say like the distance, because we did a lot of it over Zoom and stuff, but that's kind of how we typically work. I don't know. I don't really have a hardest part of this record because we were very fortunate that it felt really fun and really kind of freeing to write without a deadline and without any sense of like, gotta get this done.
Yeah, I mean, who knew when we were getting out of that?
Yeah. So I think, that answer is kind of one and the same with the easiest thing. It just felt like we had really all the time in the world, because we knew for a fact at one point that live events were going to be the final thing to come back out of the pandemic. So we were just like, well, we're certainly not going to be touring again for at least a year, or at least until a vaccine comes out, and then probably not for a while after that. So just going in and working on a record with the idea of like, we'll just do this and whatever happens, happens, and then we'll figure it out. It was really nice.
Let's see. Blind Choice, local band, great group of kids. What city is the best for the music scene? What have you been able to take in any of these music scenes while you're there? Because I'm sure a lot of it's just kind of set up and get out. But
I think when I think music scene like what we used to have, I think maybe like Austin, Texas is a place that stands out, where there's so many venues. Nashville is another one, like not particularly a lot of like rock or metal venues, but like it's cool to see that these cities are kind of built around art and music. So I'll kind of go with Nashville and Austin as one and the same answer.
Okay. Any favorite touring memories?
Well, I'm trying to think back to a really old one at this point. That includes everybody from back in the day. I don't know. I think I want to say like our very first tour that we ever did. I have to go with that because it's the most like, wow. Yeah. We drove 2 hours. We set up, we spent all this time working to buy a van. We bought this van, loaded all of our shit into the back of it, and then basically slept on top of each other in the very front of it. And we got 2 hours away, and it fucking broke down. We blew out a wheel bearing or something like that. And we had to pull over. It was freezing cold, snowing out. We had to pull over in Carlisle, Pennsylvania at a rest stop and sleep there overnight in the rest stop, frozen, waiting for the tow truck in the morning to come get us. Found out that it was $500 to fix the wheel. had to beg our parents for help to pay for it. They were so mad because we made it 2 hours and we're already asking for $500 to fix the van. And we were on tour with another band from this area, which I totally forgot to mention in my favorite bands from the area. They were called A Modern Day Massacre.
Okay.
Shout out to Evan and Wayne. They were from the area, and we did the first tour with them. And they were in a car, and we got the van fixed. Started or while we were getting the van fixed, they carried on and just kept driving, and their car broke down that they just bought like 2 days before the tour. So they were in Virginia, we were in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, both broke down. They ended up staying on the road to get their stuff fixed. We came all the way back here and kind of like regrouped, and then we all went back out and tried to finish whatever like dates that we could. I think we probably played 4 shows on the tour. And yeah, I filmed so much from that. And I ended up doing my own documentary that I made myself for the tour, and then put it on VHS tape. And then everybody on that tour ended up coming over to Angelo's house and watching it. Like I would love to put it out, but I don't, for whatever reason, I don't have it in one complete thing. It's in pieces. Okay. So I'd have to put it together again. But like, it was, I don't know, just such a cool first tour to like get 2 hours in, you're fucked. You're now like, you got to figure it out. They break down. Then we end up back with each other on the road, filming a documentary about our first tour ever, meeting one of my future best friends on one of the shows that we played in somewhere. It's just such a cool, like, wow, that happened. And I'm so happy that was our first tour.
A trial by fire.
Very much, yeah. Yeah. Trial by a lot of snow. A lot of frozen nights. Yeah.
So one of these asked about the Graveyard Shift and why it doesn't have a title track. I think you answered that the other day at the fan Q&A, if I'm not mistaken. So if you want to see that, I'll post the video of that. I did video of that, just a cell phone video, nothing fancy, but I'll post that on YouTube so we don't make you repeat yourself too much. Is there any local music that you've been able to hear recently at all? Is there anybody out there that has caught your ear or anything, or are you just kind of on the road too much to really hear?
I honestly haven't. No, I admittedly haven't sought it out. I've been so hyper fixated on our record that I haven't been able to listen to a lot of new music, even from bands that I love. So no, but this is a great opportunity for some fans to suggest who I should check out. I would love to listen to some newer up and coming bands and see what's going on in the music scene around here now. That'd be really cool.
Well, let's see. Well, Blind Choice definitely threw in there. Thanatos, I think, was one of them that commented on that.
Blind Choice, and then we did when we did that Level show, we played with a band called Traverse the Abyss, which were really cool.
Yeah.
And then I think that's all I could remember.
They actually have a show this Friday at the V Spot. So obviously you'll be on a plane, but we'll hopefully be live streaming that. I think Lou behind the scenes here is going to live stream that show. Well, you can live stream that on our page too. So if you want to check out Traverse the Abyss, they're really cool. And I think if you like Motionless in White, you'll definitely like those guys, because I do believe they consider you guys an influence. Let's see. Funniest encounter you've ever had at a meet and greet?
I don't know, man. There's been too many to count. Nothing's coming to mind right now, so I don't want to hold us up. Let's do 2 more.
Okay. Let's see. What's your favorite place to eat back home? Back in this area, I guess that's a really good one.
More local businesses.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, that's good. Keeping with the theme, people.
Yeah, I've been vegan now for 5 or 6 years. December 2016. So coming up on 6 years. So I actually used to love eating at Eden even before I was vegan. So I will say Eden, a vegan cafe, and then a newer one called Umami Gorilla. That's down by the Anthracite Diner.
Oh, okay.
Both of those places are my spots here. Yeah. Shout out to Christian from Eden.
You know, Christian did post earlier, and he had a really good suggestion about maybe doing some kind of holiday show or something like that, because the Menzingers have a lot of success doing a holiday show with like Tiger's Jaw and stuff like that. So, you know, maybe you guys can get that, you know, it's set up. We should give these guys a proper homecoming for sure. Let's see. All right, so I think that's, yeah. So what? Last question is sorry, hard pick. Favorite outfit to perform in. That's interesting. A song that you're happy to have created and a song you're unhappy to have created. That's a fun one.
I'll go with a new one called Werewolf is my current happy
Oh
song.
man, yeah, that is killer, man.
Yeah, it's a really fun one that I wanted to do. I really love that it's actually, the lyrics are actually from a very deeply personal spot within, but it's presented in like a fun, very theatrical, very like kind of Halloween anthem, spooky thriller type way.
Sure.
I really love that about it. I'm thrilled about the song, and I think it's my favorite or top 3 favorite vocal performances of my whole career. Least favorite, I guess I'll use this as a fun moment to clear up that fans love to talk about the song City Lights, because I used to say that right on stage when we would play it, I was like, I fucking hate this song, which is like sort of true, but like not at the same time. Like I really don't like the song, but I don't hate it or don't dislike it in a way that fans think that I do.
Okay.
But I love running with the joke, and like it's a fun, now at this point, 8-9 year inside joke with the fans that I love is still a thing. We did our Creatures Dead Stream where we played the album for the 10 year in 2020, and it was really cool to actually play it again. I think the last time we did it was in 2012. So yeah, that's the fun one. I don't know. There's some songs that I'm just like, I'd be fine if I never heard it again. Some tracks off of Infamous. I don't know. I think I answered a question the other day at the party that was like, what's one thing that you would change? I think that it's not necessarily the whole song, but the part of the song that I think I'm the most disappointed in is the chorus of our song Dark Passenger on our Reincarnate album. I don't know, something about it. I'm just like, oh, I hate you. I hate you. And I wish I could change you.
Well, you could always change it live, maybe, right?
No,
Sing a different version.
I would love to see the reaction to that. Just like fans hear an entirely different chorus melody and be like, what the fuck is going on right now? So maybe I'll figure that out. Or I'll record I'll do like with I'll pull a Taylor Swift and do a Chris's version.
There was when I was searching my computer for our old interview, I came up. I was like, 1120 Studios sampler, and you guys were on there, and it was like, oh man, I forgot I had a copy of that somewhere. I can't even remember what year that was.
I feel like it would take an entire day to really like go down memory lane with the capacity that we could cover everything. Like 1120 was another big part of the local scene. Keith really
still is doing great shit.
Great. It's so cool that, you know, a dude took a story like that and turned it into gold and really helped a lot of people and helped bands and was there to back and support local everything and use his life as a motivate. I don't know. It's just something really special about that. And I still have my 1120. I can't see it, but I still have my 1120 tattoo. And
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome to see that he's still contributing and doing really
Yeah,
cool
he's
stuff.
still out there doing his photography. I see him at shows pretty much every week.
I'm at Warp Tour 2018 is the last time I saw him.
Yeah, so check his stuff out, 1120 Studios. He also contributes to Highway 81 Revisited, another local blog in the area. But, so thank you so much for coming here and taking the time out to do this and take a little trip down memory lane. I know not every band that I talk to wants to do that, but it seems like we had a lot of fun today.
I think it's been so long at this point that I've forgotten a lot of stuff or don't think about a lot of stuff. So this is like more stimulating for me than anybody else to like think about like, oh my God, I forgot about that thing or that show or that whatever. I hate to say like I'm still stuck in the past, but there is a part of me that I've covered on many, many songs of our career that heavily lives in the past. And while I'm so grateful to do what we do now, and whether I want to or not, I would never be able to survive in a van again. My body would just be like, goodbye. So I'm like, I'm so happy that like we toured a bus and we have all these really rad things as part of our lives now. Yeah. There is just a magic that we described earlier about 6 friends in a van, toughing through it, grinding it out, playing the local shows, handing out flyers at the Wyoming Valley Mall. You can't touch that. I'll never get that back. And I'm just so happy and so grateful that I lived it and that I did it with my best friends and met so many amazing people from this area through doing that. I'm just so proud to be here to represent for 570. And I think I'm very grateful that we had this conversation. So thank you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And thank you all for tuning in. We had a great crowd tonight. Thank you all for your comments. I'm sorry we didn't get to, all of them, but we would have been here all night. And at some point, he's got to get on a plane here and go to Australia. So we appreciate you guys representing the area. It means a lot to us to see you guys succeed and do what you do. So, and if you enjoyed the show, if you like what we do, we do this every Wednesday in the studio from 7 to 8 p.m. We stream with a local band, a local artist. We're going to have some really great guests coming up. So not just bands, but filmmakers. We're going to have a drag queen in here soon. It's going to be a lot of fun. So please come back and subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. We are as a small local publication, we're really kind of battling the algorithm to get noticed at all whatsoever. So, stuff like this really, really helps that. But you want to support everybody who's coming up. Well, whether they've had the success that these guys have had or they're just starting out. So, please like, share, comment. Follow our page, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at NEPA Scene. And make sure you listen to the new album. Scoring the End of the World is great. I was listening to it all day today. Really great album. Definitely want to see you guys back in the area soon. So hopefully we can get a show together at some point.
We're working on it. So see
right.
what happens.
Have a good night, everybody.